you saw the first video, we got it stripped down. We're just down to the shell here. But there needs to be some repairs. We got a couple holes right here. And then here's the biggest things. They had possibly a radio or something, a talkback radio run through here. It didn't have the speaker here originally because it didn't have a radio, AM, FM, or just AM radio. So they cut these out, and I'm gonna try to put it back. So we found some of this steel I got out back, and basically we're just gonna cut 3 little strips. We're gonna try to bend these back down flat as we can, and then make the pieces fit. And we'll weld them from the back side, and then if we got to do anything from the top, we'll smooth it out up here and try to blend it in so it doesn't show. Not that it's the biggest deal in the world, but it would just be nice to have that all, because you'll see that through the windshield. So we got those 2 holes, those little spots, and I think the only thing else is they got 2 little holes right here. We'll just go ahead and weld them up, and then we will remove these stickers, and then we'll just might just wet sand it, because we want to retain this black as much as possible as a kind of a primer or a base. And we'll get into the paint situation here in a bit. We'll talk about it. We kind of alluded to it in the first video, so we're gonna discuss it a little further this time around. But if you look at this black texture, which is on, if you had a black interior on a Mopar back during this era, it was this lacquer suede finish. And obviously this is faded, but this was under the dash pad here, and see how it looks. It kind of has and you can just about duplicate that with a flat or even a semi satin paint if you do the technique right. But this is a very durable coating, and if it's fresh, it has a nice look to it, and hopefully we'll achieve that. I've used this stuff before and it works good. It's just terribly expensive nowadays because it's illegal some places, partially due to the reducer in it or something. I don't know. It's just because it's something that used to work really good, and they decided that it caused cancer in everybody in the world, so it's no longer a part of the equation. Alright, so we got our 3 rough cuts made. We're going to have to do a lot of comparing. We're going to have to flatten them out a little bit, this one especially. And just get them where they look right, you know? Nothing spectacular here, nothing exotic, nothing crazy. Just flatten them out, smooth them down, get all this edge off of them from the grinder. And then we'll just compare each one of them, and when it looks right, we'll tack it in. Alright, so we took the floppy wheel and cleaned them up really close, you know. So right now what we got to do, probably what they had done, they snipped one end of these, they bent it up, and they snipped the other end, so that This is kind of puckered up. Same thing here. Not as bad though. So we're just gonna take a couple of pliers, try to start with these little needle nose, and just try to flatten it back down. If that don't work, I can go to maybe a hammer and dolly, put a dolly in behind it, and hammer down on it. Try to flatten it out that way. We'll see what we can do with it. And it looks like we're gonna have to do hammer and dolly. That works. Alright, so we got the nitty gritty of it down here, and we're going to try to fit them now. So this one here on the bottom, I noticed it almost looks like it was on this left side was made for it. It almost clips into place from the back side here. And we're just going to score a mark if we can. We'll have to put a piece of tape on it. Let's see. That'll do it. So there's the bottom one. I'll lay it in a sequence here. See the middle one. See how that fits. Okay, yes, there's the middle one. And the top one. So we'll put our cutting wheel back on, trim those off, see what we can do with it. Alright, so we have these trimmed roughly, hopefully finally. It's always nice. It's the bottom one. Give it a little touch. A little touch. That one's good, and that one's ready. Easy as that, right? The middle. Actually, hair short if anything, but we'll have to work with it, and that's fine. So we'll call that one down. This one will be same thing, a little short. But we can make it work. That's on the top. So let's fire up the welder and see what we can do. Alright, so we're going to go on the back side of this thing. So we're going to have to flip it over. And flip it around. There we go. There we go. Hook our ground up. And we're going to be working kind of backwards here. I'm going to turn that fan on. It feels freaking good, but might give us troubles with the weld, even though we're not using gas. Right there, the temperature went up 75,332 degrees. So, okay. Our bottom one, basically reverse. So there's the tricky part. There's the tricky part right here. Let's see what we got. I'm gonna clip that off. That's old. It's been a while since we welded. Been a minute 20. So that's gonna be tricky. So I think I'll have to just worry about one side at a time. Let me zoom you in here. Let me make sure you're seeing what I'm doing, because I don't know if you can see it or not. Right there. That's the situation. Okay. Okay. And that's what happens when you try. Give a second, because that much heat on something that small could cause some spectacular warpage. Trying to find that place where if you got a little bit of a gap, which we do, trying to get them to bridge together, but the wire sometimes wants to go a little to the side, so your guesstimate may not always be that good. So we got them in, and we got them in fairly secure. So we're going to look at it from the other side and see how well that looks. We might have to put a couple welds on that side. And if that's true, then that's okay. We'll just touch it up. See what we got. Okay, so I think I'll touch it up with some weld. Urgh! Two holes right here. I'm going to try to dolly them into place, and then we'll try to weld them up. Close them in a little bit because they're puckered. It might help you get a weld in there without putting anything behind it. That helps. Let's see what we do with that. So those just need smoothed out. That needs smoothed out plus whatever inspection. And then we got the two on the front. Let's flip it around. Try to get it done. Alright, so there's two holes right here. Had something in there. Probably the military had something in there. And then the guy that had it after that put duct tape over it. I keep getting stuff in my eye from this fan. It's just not a good day, people. It's not a good day at all. I really don't like today. It sucks. And it ain't gonna come out, whatever it is. Whatever. We got it that time. Hard to say for sure, you know how it is. So you can kind of judge for yourself. It's hard to tell completely, but we'll take a file, work the insides of these out where you can get the little burrs out and try to get the shape back in them, and then we'll jump back on here. Alright, so we've got a couple small imperfections in here, as you would expect, so we're just going to use some glazing putty and try to make the best of that. The areas are so small, I wouldn't get into actual body filler or anything like that, so we're just going to try to fill it in that way and sand it and then call it done. I'm going to just either put a little on here and see what we can do. That. We're going to put some down here on the holes we welded up. And I'll put some down here on the ones that show on the front. Place in park. Set emergency brake. Stop engine. We pretty much know how to do that. So I think we're going to I don't know if Chrysler put this on here or something to the Army or what the situation is with that. And we'll just kind of smear it around in there a little bit. If it takes off some paint, that's okay. We'll feather it in, but we would like to leave the majority of the black on here for a good base. Same thing here. I don't know what this used to be. It looks like it may have been a warranty situation. I can't really read. Something about the government, District of Columbia, properly tagged, and some other kind of stuff, but it's not necessary. So, plus it's pretty shot anyways. While we are at that stage, there are a few other items that will need to be painted in that black, and first one outside of the dash would be the instrument cluster. It's metal, and we'll probably have to take this apart, this part, just so we don't have a big mess dealing on in there. So we'll sand it down, maybe with I think I got some 400 grit, just enough to clean it up. And then the actual steering column around the collar, it gets it. So we'll deal with that too, but we're going to worry about the dash at the moment and then go from there. Alright, so here is the instrument cluster. I went ahead and stripped it down. Actually a pretty simple process. There's a few little things in there, like these little they're kind of push rivets that you deal with, but you handle them alright, they'll come out, so no big deal there. And we've got a lot of the pieces, speedometer and all the other little gauges, gauge rings. And this is a good chance to polish up these lenses that we got here. So we'll do that in time. I'll probably put them in a little box and close them up and put them in the house so they don't get all gritty looking or anything like that. So another thing on the dash, and notice I've got more band-aids. I've got these three and I've got this one there. Like I said, it's been a bad day. It's not been a spectacular situation today. And this kind of tells the story here. I had the spot putty on here. Well, I noticed it must be too old or something, and it did not dry. So I sanded it off, and then I put actual Bondo in it. So it's already setting up pretty good. So maybe in an hour we can give it a good sand down, and then this will pretty much be ready for paint. So that was my thinking as far as this. We'll go ahead and mask this area out here because I don't want to get paint all inside this. This white paint is the brightener for your lights when you turn your light switch on. Plus these blue bulbs are what gives it the blue tint. So we'll probably just tape it right around the inside of this ring right here and cover it up. Same thing over here. We popped out the indicator lenses. That's what those are there. And it is outside of the masking. It is ready to paint. I went ahead and sanded it all down, so it's good to go on that. All this stuff we're going to organize it, put it in a little tray so we don't lose any of that. We'll keep it with all of that stuff. So try to be organized, try to be clean. I know it doesn't look it right here, but we've got everything contained. Once we get this masked off, we're going to go grab that steering column and we'll do that little section there on that. Have it ready to paint so that we can hit all three of them at once. The only thing that's probably going to be left is that glove box. I didn't mention it earlier. I actually forgot. We need to get grab a different, a clean glove box that doesn't have any dimples or tags or anything on it like the one we got. But no big deal. We'll look one up maybe here the next day or so and see if we can locate one. So with that said, we'll get to work. We're going to take a little break here, and hopefully the day will get a little better. Alright, so here's the steering column. It's sitting there in the back. And really, it just needs this section right here painted black. We need to clean all this other stuff up. I don't know if I'll do it now. I might just mask around it, paint this, sand it down, paint it, and then when we get it into the vehicle. So when I told you I wasn't going to get into that steering column too much, well, it's just time for me to tell you that I lied about that. It's pretty icky. But really the best way to get the paint up here on this, and this thing's kind of got its letters worn away anyways, we might just experiment with a little bit, take some of it apart and see if we can get into there to at least get this collar off. And I can paint this part if it doesn't, I can't remember the situation on these, how intricate they are built in there. So we'll see if we can at least get the collar off. I know you got a little snap ring in there you got to get loose. So we're going to take a look at that. So we're contending with a few issues here. I would have shown you, but we're having problems with the video today. We're wonderfully in theme with the bad day thing. So here's most of the top end of the steering column. You saw us take all that loose. There was a bearing right here. Okay, it is a kind of a friction fit bearing or type of situation where it just fits down on that shaft. And what it was it goes down on here. And it sets on top of this little snap ring right here where my thumb is. Now, I'm not going to push it back on there because I want to knock it back off, but what I did was I took a 7/8 wrench, because I don't have, there's actually a tool for this, but it's not real common. But you can put it under here where it avoids the snap ring. It doesn't get hooked under that, which you don't want to do. If you have maybe a 3/4, it might do that. So keep that in mind. In this case, the 7/8 works good. And it gets it just under there, and it gets under both of the collars. And I moved it around and smacked up on the wrench with a hammer. So basically I'd put it under the bearing and I was smacking around, and then I would move around to the opposite side so it would be even and do the same thing. You have to use a nice firm force when you do that. If you do, it'll pop off, and this one did, and it's still very intact and very smooth rolling. So we'll repack it when we get ready to put it back, but for now we'll just put it there. I don't want to really cut these wires to get it out. They feed them in there, and then they put this connector on it, and they put this little bracket to mount it back to the dash. Well, a couple of these have D-pin fine, but the rest of them are a little tricky, so that'll be I need to do that, and if I can't get it, then I might have to resort to just snipping them, and I'll re-splice them really good and put heat shrink on them and all that sort of thing. But then we might just get a new one. I don't know. And this is your turn signal cam here is what it is, so it's what allows you to all that kind of stuff. But for now, it's late. I've been out here all day. Hopefully we can have a better day tomorrow. Alright, so we're several days later from the last scene that you just witnessed. And I'll just have to say, you know, we had that bad day. I kept saying bad day, it's a bad day, it's a bad day. And it was a bad weekend. And it's kind of turned into a bad week outside of the garage. But you know, we're doing alright. We're making it through. And we're gonna try to hit this again. And what I got here is we took that steering column apart. You'll see a lot of that. And we've got some stuff kind of refinished. This is the plate that goes to the floor or the firewall. Here's the actual steering shaft, the whole shaft. This is the bottom here where my thumb is. And here's the end where your steering wheel goes in. It's a one piece. A lot of the later stuff will have that two-piece breakaway design. I'm not sure on the Vans if they did that due to the angle. You have kind of an angle that wouldn't matter as much, but I'm not positive on that. Here's the outside sleeve. Refinished that. It looks pretty good. Just a nice semi-flat, semi-satin black situation there. The collars, I'm gonna wipe them down. They've been sanded. They're cast aluminum. You could probably even, if you wanted to, polish these up to a nice mirror-like finish. And here's where your gear selector shows. That's what you're looking at, and this piece goes behind it. So we got those, and they are ready for the lacquer that we have been talking about forever. Here's the dash itself. Now I block sanded this out. It's probably not perfect, but it's good enough. Had holes in it before. And the only other spot that needs work is right here. I'm probably going to do that right now and block sand this out, because the way I figured about an inch of this shows from this ridge upward. The dash pad will set up on top of that, so we'll want to smooth that out. Oh, and a little reminder, we have our Teespring storefront set up for some Hoosier Garage stuff. We got some cool original artwork, t-shirts, decals on there, and we even got our classic Hoosier Garage decals. I ordered a handful of them the other day, and these are very high quality die cut. They'll go on anything, toolbox, on your window, on your bumper, whatever. And if you check out, we did some artwork with the van in its finished state. We also have an older design of a Duster that I used to have, and I kind of modified it a little bit, made it more mass appeal. And we did a Hoosier Garage sticker and a t-shirt of that. So if you like stuff like that, check in the description below. We have that available. And just remember, if you like what you're watching here, make sure you like and you subscribe and you know, rate and all that kind of stuff. So let's just get back to the stuff though. Alright, so what I'm doing is I'm setting everything up to spray for the black suede paint, the lacquer base Chrysler style paint. So we got the dash here. We're going to wipe it down real good, probably once or twice, maybe 3 times. And on this table here, we're going to put some of our small stuff to go into it. Then we will get our instrument cluster, which is ready to go. We're going to wipe it down again because it's been set for a couple days, but it has been masked off and it's ready for a spray. So here's the collar of the swivel for that. And then we have the indicator collar, shows what gear you're in, and houses a lot of the bearing and all that other stuff. Now one thing I noticed here, this is part of the, you know, what makes your steering wheel nice and tight, all the mechanism in it. It's basically what your lever rides on, and if that feels really sloppy in this situation, I noticed this one, these screws had backed out a little bit, so I put some Loctite on them and ran them back in nice and tight. So it was pretty loose on the action there, so I went ahead and just got that back in line, and we're going to get it cleaned up and painted. Okay, so we got the air compressor fired up. It's got a good level. We made sure our gun was nice and clean. We shot a little bit of lacquer thinner through it, make sure everything was clear, came out evenly. You don't want to just put the paint in it and expect it to come out, because if it doesn't, then especially if it's a paint you have to mix with a hardener or anything like that, then you're screwed, and you have to dump it into a cup and make sure you clean it all apart, you know, take it apart, clean it up really good, and all this business. So if we clean it up properly the last time we used it, it should be good this time. That's why I go ahead and just take a little bit of lacquer thinner, since we will be running a lacquer in it, just enough, and then I hooked the air up to it and sprayed it, and of course we got a nice stream that way, and when we sprayed it, it was very even, so we know that we have a good pattern, okay? It's not clogged up any one spot. Now I have a little bit of that lacquer in there still, just a touch, where you see it down at the very bottom of the cup, and actually down in the tube at the bottom of the cup. That's what I'm looking at. That way it'll help introduce it, because the paint is a bit thicker, it'll help introduce it into the atmosphere and not clog up instantly, which sometimes they'll do that. So as long as you got a little bit of either reducer, and we've done it before, we put a epoxy primer, we put a little bit of thinner down in there, and it helps just kind of break it up a little bit, real smooth, and it comes out, and it just introduces it to whatever you're doing a lot easier. Okay, so this situation, lacquer thinner will do. Now we're going to open up this paint, and like I said, this is $200 for this quart, and it is a mixed pint where they add the special reducer, which I don't guess it's lacquer thinner, but a lacquer reducer. And so you're getting a 50-50 mix. It's ready to spray. You don't have to add any kind of hardener, because lacquer is self-drying, self-hardening. And right here, this is how they have it labeled. Mopar Black Suede, shake well. It's ready to spray, so we don't have to put anything in it, because the whole premise, I guess, with this stuff is the reducer is the hard to find material for this product, and that's because it's probably been banned and all this stuff in certain areas, so they've outlawed it for the most part, but it's a very hard, durable finish. This stuff, I've shot it before, you don't want to shoot it at too low of a pressure. Like, you don't want to shoot it at 30, I don't think. We'll have to probably sparingly play with it, but you don't want to put it too low, because then it shoots it out in kind of little droplets that you can see. They're kind of heavy. Now with this being pre-reduced, it might solve that. When I had it before, I had to reduce it myself, and I used lacquer thinner, and it came out looking pretty good. It had a nice texture, maybe a little bit more than stock, but I liked it. I thought it looked cool. It looked kind of rich, so I was pretty happy with that. Yeah, it smells illegal in California. Okay, this is a bit hard to see, but it is about 50 psi. We're going to do a test shot with that. And I'm just going to do it down here on the lower edge where you really won't be seeing it much. I'm just going to take you with me here. I'm back about 7 inches. Give it kind of a coat there. Now we're just going to, I went over it maybe twice, really. Just dusted it on there. We're let it set, and lacquer dries really fast, so we kind of see what we got. It's covering, and then it has the texture to it. You can hear it. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with that. We're gonna just run it out down here on this bottom edge. And this is a good time to just cut them little areas where you might miss otherwise. And if you've done any of this at all, you would know where that would possibly be. And just empty it out evenly on what you got. This area here where we had to sand that decal off might help to build it back up a little bit. Same thing here. just kind of re-level it with what you got. And I'm hitting the trigger as I need it. I'm not holding it down and just blowing it on there. Okay, we ran out what we got there, okay? So, it's funny how good that actually looks. I think I've got a little spot here on the lens. I apologize for that. So we will probably do this stuff first, and then we'll get into that. Alright, so I took the dash after it dried, which literally with this lacquer you can safely do a minute and it's dry, but I gave it about 5 minutes. And I've set it out here in the sunlight so you can hopefully see some of the texture on it. Yeah, so that's what it does. It has a nice texture, really. I mean, that's the only way I know how to do it. It's just texture. And it has a kind of a sandy feeling to it. And you'll see up here where the pad will cover, you might be able to see some of my scratches from the sandpaper. Just remember, lacquer likes to shrink. And although this is not perfect, I do have some scuffs down here on the lower edge. I was just a little hasty with it. But if you're wanting a show finish with this stuff, then make sure you run all your sandpaper and get the spiders off. And go through it real good. The top, we got it really good because you're going to see that through the windshield. And I was just excited to get it painted. It's going to be a driver, but I wanted it to have that look, and it's got the look. So that's what that looks like. Now if we walk over here and grab some of the other pieces, I'll just grab this collar here. Now you saw me flip it over. That was so we can cover this edge up here. And that's what it looks like without getting any closer than that, really. But it feels very high quality. It just has a nice strong texture that feels like it's very resilient. So that'll do for what we got here, and it all matches, and it'll just leave us the glove box door. Now we will have to paint that, and it's very small, you know, maybe 2 of these put together. That's the size of it. So what we had left was over a half a quart in our can. So when we do the duster, we'll have enough to do all of that, no problem. And that's including the steering column and the glove box door, and of course the dash instrument panel on it does not get painted like this one does. So we might be able to have enough to maybe help somebody else out, or have another project that'll need some, and we'll just see how far it goes. It'll be our little experiment. It's understood that it takes 2 cars in that 1 quart of mixed, so we'll see. And I did 3 coats of this really, and then the very last was when I was running out, I just dusted it on, and that kind of gives you a little bit of extra texture because you're just letting it kind of dance in the air, and then you get that look. So, and I kind of like the rougher look to it. So that is that. Hope you learned something. And for like, let's see, this is about $100 per dash at least. So I say it's worth it. It's just kind of trouble to go through and get it, and bring yourself to pour it, and initially get that kind of money together to do this. So next episode we will probably put it back in the van, get it secured, and then we'll worry about kind of building it through the inside, getting the wiring and getting the dash pad back on it, and figuring out what to do there. I'm not sure how I'm going to go about that yet, whether I'm going to get it just recovered or just put a piece of carpet over it for now. We're kind of working on limited funds like many of you are, so we want to keep it kind of budget right now and not just throw everything we got at it. Because when this stuff came from the factory, it was all built together. And the way you saw it in the part 1, that's how they construct them. They put the wiring in them, they put everything together, and then they inserted it into the vehicle, and they plugged all the bulkheads up and all the switches and all that stuff. We could do it that way, but I figure we're kind of limited on space, and it'd be nice to get this back into the position in the van, and we can run the wiring through. It's not that complex. Everything hooks up really simple, and we'll show you that. So that will be in part 3. So I'm thinking in the next video, I would like to install that, and also put the steering column back together, and have that at least 95% ready. We'll just go from there with that. Good thing is, as of the release of this video, the other one I think it'll come in right behind it, because like I said earlier, I missed a week because of all the crap that was going on last weekend. So just some adversity that we was dealing with, and hopefully we can bring you some videos that you enjoy and you can use and entertain you and all that kind of fun stuff. But we'll try to get the column together, get the dash in, and we'll just go from there. We need to figure out the front of that engine, get a new gasket on there, and we'll cover that in the other series. And have all kinds of fun. All kinds of fun. And so, if you like this, again, make sure you subscribe, you like, and all that jazz. Y'all have a good one.